I always feel so silly sitting down in front of the camera, glammed up, dressed up, looking nice and cute, when just 15 minutes ago I was working, I was wearing my home outfit, you know, like pretty much like your pajama, but more elevated, so you can kind of work from home, cook, be comfy, all of that. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta like film my video, so let me do this whole thing, pretend like I look like this all the time. So yeah, I just want you guys to know, only for you, I do my best to look my best, so I hope you appreciate it. But today's video is not about my physical appearance. Today's video is about books. I felt like it's been a while since I shared anything related to books, and I miss talking about them. I miss showing you guys books and talking about books. So, you know, it's summertime. I got myself some flowers. I was like, okay, you know what, it's time to bring it on, and I came up with 7 books that I want to recommend you to read this summer. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so first book on my list of books I want to share with you is just the latest book that I just finished. That is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This book has been on my list pretty much since it was released, and I believe it was released back in 2019, but only this year, like 5 years later, I finally decided to read it. Honestly, I wouldn't say I loved it, but I think it was a great read for the beginning of summer. Like for me, ever since it's June 1st, for me that's summertime, okay? So because I read it like the first week of summer, of June, it felt like very much appropriate to recommend it for the summertime. I honestly think whatever is going on there does not require like your full attention, which is great when you are going to the beach. You know, you just need something to keep you entertained, but not to make you lose time reading it. You know when you read a good book and you're like, oh my god, it's been 3 hours, I didn't even notice. I don't think this is that type of book. I think this is specifically for laying on the beach, not having to think about too many things, and just, you know, having some quality alone time with your book. So this is a memoir about Dolly Alderton's pretty much like teenage years and her 20s, and finishing with her turning 30. So at first I really wasn't that into this book, but as she was getting older throughout the book, it was more and more relatable, because I honestly can say Dolly's past version, like her teenage version, and me, we probably would never become friends. And it feels weird saying that because this is a person's memoir, right? Like they just tell you their story, and sit here and just be saying like, oh, I think she was too messy, or she was too you know, whatever I want to say, I'm not gonna say, because, you know, this is a personal journey of this talented journalist and writer. I do think she's funny. I think at times it was just too much for me personally. Like it was just trying to be funny, type of funny, you know, like everything is like a joke, and that's not my type of humor. I guess maybe it's because it's like British humor, and I never really understood British humor. But nonetheless, I'm recommending this book because I do believe for the summertime, it's perfect book for summertime. Next book on my list, I actually believe I read, out of all of them that I will show you today, I read first chronologically. So it's been some time and I might not remember everything because I think I read it in 2020 during COVID, when we were all stuck at home, and pretty much that's when my passion for reading reignited. So I really enjoyed this book, and this is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. She won the Booker Prize in 2019, so I saw it a lot on YouTube, because I think like my obsession with book internet community started with YouTube, and this book was like shown a lot, and so seeing it on YouTube so much, I was like, okay, let me check it out. And I think this was one of the first books that kind of reintroduced contemporary literature for me, because I always was kind of a snob, thinking that, you know, contemporary literature doesn't do it for me, but this book definitely proved me wrong. And I think it was really interesting to read about women of color and their different experiences. So in each chapter, there are like 5 in total, you get a perspective of different women, and like I said, I don't remember everything, but I just remember that in the end it all connects and you realize, and it's just so beautiful when you know, you get to know so many different characters, and it makes you think about all these different life choices or situations. There was one story in particular that really shocked me. I'm not gonna spoil it because it's a big deal, but that if you read this book, you know what I'm talking about. The one about the mother of a girl, you know, and what she did to her own daughter behind her back. Like, when I was reading that, I was like, what? So yeah, but I do think it's a great book for the summertime because it has a lot going on there, but at the same time it's not gonna traumatize you, and it's just like very easy read and very entertaining. And I don't know, I think like the cover itself also reminded me of the summertime. I think this book you can read at any point really, but something about it made me feel like this needs to be in my summer video. Next book is also very much summer. The book itself talks about big attribute of the summertime, and that is the sun, and that is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. You know, when you're talking about someone who got Nobel Prize in literature and Booker Prize, yeah, like you're like, do I really need to say anything? This person is clearly up there, you know. He's a contemporary master creating masterpieces. So, and yet this is my second Ishiguro. First one was Never Let Me Go, but I do think I enjoyed Clara and the Sun much more, which is weird because I think I saw before reading this book so many people not liking this book, but I really enjoyed the cover, so I bought it for the cover. And it did sound interesting. So this book is about artificial friend named Clara, who, you know, in the beginning of the book, she is waiting to be bought by a child to be their artificial friend, and then her owner basically comes and finds her and buys her, and then that's where the story really begins, because her owner, this little girl, she suffers from some like illness, so it's pretty much life and death situation where we don't know if she'll live or not. So Clara, artificial friend, you know, I'm not gonna spoil too much. I'm just gonna say she believes in the sun and starts praying to the sun. So that's, I'm gonna leave it there, but there's so much more to this book, and I honestly think it's so brilliant. This is the book that I will definitely recommend to my children. I will maybe even read it to them. I think it's a great book for children, but honestly it made me feel like my inner child like felt seen. I was like, oh my god, like I actually cried in the end. But my husband, for example, completely didn't like it. A lot of people online say this is not it, so I think to each their own. For some reason, the part about artificial intelligence having emotions, like, and this whole book is like a debate, right? Like, our artificial friends, can they just be tossed aside? Because like in the end of the book it gets really sad, and I'm not gonna say why because I don't want to spoil it to you, but it's definitely one of my favorites, and I don't understand why many people find it boring or like not interested in it. Anyways, Clara and the Sun is perfect for the summertime because it has the sun as a big part of the book, and I felt like this description of the sunshine and sun warming up everything, just the sun, you know, like I love the sun, and like that is a big part of summertime for me, that there is more of the sun, and I love it. And I was reading it last summer, so it made me feel like, you know, I was actually there because I felt the sun on my skin. So I do recommend to read it in the summer if you haven't read it yet. Book number 4 is none other than Joan Didion, Let Me Tell You What I Mean. This is, I think, either the last or one of the last published collections of her works. And I really do think like it's a great starting point, although I do also think that her greatest book, the one that is most celebrated as well, is The Year of Magical Thinking, and I recommend everyone to start with that one. But also I think if you don't want to be sad and, you know, now it's the summertime and you're like, what should I read from Joan Didion, I really think this one is so concise and has so many of her popular essays. And I read other books by her, but I think this collection of her essays is still my most favorite, because I don't know, they just all go into these like young life experiences. For example, here she talks about why she writes, you know, repeating George Orwell's essay, Why I Write, and she actually mentions him when she writes about why she's writing. Oh my god, I was talking about the sun in summertime and the sun just disappeared, so I hope the video won't get too dark because I see it's gloomy outside already. Yikes. Okay, so I really enjoyed, besides Why I Write, I really like Alicia and the Underground Press. Then On Being Unchosen by the College of One's Choice, amazing, especially if you are like in your early 20s, you know, talking about this whole career choice and not being chosen by your dream college, for example. Telling Stories. So I think this is like the foundation of what made Joan Didion Joan Didion. And I think it's so short and it goes by so fast, like, because each essay is its own story, so you're just focusing on this like short story, right? And then it's over and you're like, okay, I want more. So I do think it's a great starting point to get acquainted with Joan Didion's works, but also look how beautiful this book is. Like, I will be honest, I bought it because of this cover, and I love that every single Joan Didion's book has her on the cover, because she was just a style icon in my personal opinion. So love, love, love. Okay, book number 5 on the list, and this is Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. This is my second Hesse. His first book I read was The Steppenwolf. I love that one. I feel like it spoke to me. I feel like, as someone who at times feels very alienated and wants to be left alone, that book really spoke to me. But this book is perfect for the summertime because it really delves into the spiritual part of being. As you can guess by the name of the book, it talks about Siddhartha, and it kind of like retells the story of Siddhartha. Well, basically, for someone who is not that acquainted with Indian storytelling, it was interesting for me to read it. But also I do think that Hesse was touching on very important points in this book that I believe in the summertime you really get to experience and think about life in a different way as everything comes back to life. I personally like to reflect on the beauty of the nature, and I try to change my life every summertime. So I think this book really serves that purpose for that reason. Actually, talking about spirituality reminded me of one book I wanted to include in this video and I forgot. So it's kind of like 8 books, even though I said it's 7, because I don't know which one to get rid of now, because the last 2 I have are also very much cool to read in the summer. So additional book bonus. So it's 7 books plus this one. It's The Power of Now. Yet again, the reason why I included in the summer books video is because I think summertime is really great to focus on your mental health and well-being, and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is the go-to for that. I think everyone talks about it. I think if you're not into self-help books and spirituality, you won't enjoy it, but if you kind of want to check out what is there, and what you're missing out on, then I definitely recommend it. At the time, and I think I read it in 2019 or 2020, it really helped me with my mental health struggles. And I actually bought finally his second book, The New Earth, so I'm looking forward to read it this summer as well, as continuation of my spiritual journey. Okay, so next book is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and I read it last summer. I actually took it with me to Bali, so it's ruined because I was always on the beach or in the pool reading it. I think this one is controversial because it talks about a pedophile and him grooming a child, and like disgusting thought pattern that is exposed in this book. And before I read it, I really felt like, why would anyone write a book like that? But I think you need to read it to realize that Nabokov is not making excuses for this type of behavior. It's just a very interesting way of telling a story from a perspective of a very disgusting person. But I think because it deals with this sensitive topic, a lot of people just don't realize the importance of this book. But I do think that the reason why I'm recommending it for the summertime is that the book takes place in a very like sunlit environment. So I think it's always important to read a book that has the same environment that you have, like at least weather conditions. So for example, why I would not read Dostoevsky in the summertime, it just wouldn't hit the same, but it's perfect for rainy days, snowy days, right? So I think like Lolita is perfect for summertime, and if you haven't read it yet, I do think you should. But at the same time, I gave it very low rating because it was just disgusting. But at the same time, Nabokov is a great writer, and I still need to read more from him because this was one and only book I read by him. And the last book in this video is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is my third Woolf, and I loved it so much because the first one was A Room of Your Own, or Her Own, what? A Room of One's Own. So it's pretty much like a short essay. Well, it's a short book, but it's like an essay. I have it here actually. It's really beautiful. I really like the cover, and I loved it so much. And this was like non-fiction by Woolf, so when I read her fiction, my first fiction by her, it was To the Lighthouse, and I didn't understand it, I didn't like it, and then I was like, okay, I still wanna try out more. And because it's so weird, because I loved A Room of One's Own, but then To the Lighthouse I didn't enjoy, so I decided to go for Mrs. Dalloway, and this one I absolutely adored. And I think maybe because I already knew that Woolf's writing is not your typical writing, it's like this own style. I forgot how it's called, I'll check it out and write the name of this writing style. Either way, this book is about high society hostess Clarissa Dalloway throwing a party, and throughout this book we kind of go from one character to the other, and like all these different life stories and how they all connect together. You see, I have like this love for novels that have multiple characters going from one to the other, and then it all connects together, the same as Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other. So it's just my thing. I think I get bored pretty easily, so if you always have me wondering like from one character to the other, I'm gonna be entertained more. So I definitely think this is a great summer read because the whole book focuses on one day, and I don't know if it's a summertime or springtime, but I don't even know if it was any of those. But for some reason I associate this book with the summertime, because I can imagine myself reading this on a beach, you know, or in a park, and just delving into the story in the summertime. Like it screams summer for me. Like this whole video is just like based on my own associations and when I read them. As simple as that. Like just because some of the books I read during the summertime, and just because some of them felt like summer to me, I'm recommending them to you. So maybe to you they won't feel like that, but to me they totally corresponded to the summery vibe. So that's why I included them in this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my first time recommending books based on a season or any special occasion. I don't think I've ever filmed a video like this for my YouTube channel. I do have some TikToks like that. So yeah, this was my first time making a video like that. I wasn't even sure, like, should I do it or not? But you know, you'll never know until you try, and I felt like sharing some of the books that I felt like were summer appropriate. So in total it's 8 books, not 7, because I forgot to include one more. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have read any of them, let me know which one you liked. If you want to read any one of them, also let me know which one you're gonna read. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. I love you. Bye.